Welcome back, everybody. It's time for Reclaiming America. I'm Bill Moore,
I'm Greta Lehman.
and we have Dan there somewhere.
I'm
Oh, there
here,
we go.
just running the board behind the scenes, been ready to jump in and have a conversation with y'all.
We have
And
a guest.
we have his best shots with him when he's behind the scenes, by the way. So just keep that in mind.
Okay.
And we do have a very, very important guest with us today. And I'm going to introduce Mr. Allen Mashburn right there, who's running for lieutenant governor and just found out so far he's literally run 135,000 miles across this state several times trying to get people to learn the obvious and support him. So anyway, with that, I'd like to welcome you to our show, sir.
Thank you. It's always a joy to see each one of you. And Bill, the last time I was in Brunswick County, I think you had some shoulder surgery. So good to see you up and about.
I did. I've had a shoulder replaced, so we're getting there.
All right, good.
So anyway, why don't we start out by letting you tell people a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, I'm a pastor. I've been in Christian ministry over 30 years. Most of that time's been bivocational. When I came out of college and came back here to North Carolina, I worked at a funeral home. I also did a 12-year stint with my father-in-law in the welding business. So I was a welder for 12 years, then went into the insurance business, and the entire time I was in ministry as well. So been in full-time ministry since around 2015. I'll go into what brought me into this race. Back in 2018, we started a podcast called Carolina Conservatives Preachers with a Punch. And we started exposing the inappropriate and pornographic books in our schools. We got censored, we got banned, long story of it, or the short of it, rather. And to say that, we actually have been fighting since. And just about 4 weeks ago, we have seen 4 books removed in Moore County. I'm also involved in a lawsuit. I can't say much about it, but we're making a group is suing some counties about the inappropriate books. So I'm very involved in that and very passionate about it, very passionate about our children. We also started focusing on school boards and started trying to flip them because the main issue in those books is policy and how we must have conservative leadership in the room and on the board. So around 18 months ago, 2 years ago, we started endorsing and working with school board candidates, endorsed 31, 27 of those got elected. And so that's been our work toward this. Fast forward to 2019, when my father started having many strokes and had to go into nursing care facility, round-the-clock care. March 15th of that year, Cooper shut down everything. We weren't permitted to visit my father for about 2 months. We went up there, and my mother went every day, 3 times a day, and fed all of his meals. And we were stopped at the door and threatened with law enforcement. May 14th of that year, we get a call and say, your father is dying. If you want to see him, come up here and look in the window, and we will roll him to the window. And that didn't sit well with me at all. So we went in, barged our way in, and got 43 minutes with my father. And much of that time we gave to my mother. So 43 minutes with my father in a state that he did not realize what was going on, had no clue why we had stopped coming, or there had been no communication, hadn't heard his wife's voice in 2 months. And I determined then we will never again allow ourselves to be put in this position. We've got to fight. If we want our rights, we have to fight for them. And I'm just one of many. I don't have any idea how many people went through that and suffered that, but many suffered through that. We reached out to the governor. He didn't care. Reached out to the lieutenant governor, who not our current lieutenant governor, but was a Republican, never once got a courtesy call back. And so I determined that, if God wanted me in this position to run and win, anyone who calls our office, if they don't receive a call back, we'll fire the entire staff if we can't get service to serve the people, because that's what they do. They serve and should serve the people. Factor in the same thing, and I know I'm going long here, but I want to tell you the story. Factor in the same thing that Cooper shut down our churches. I'm a pastor. we would not, we didn't sit well with that either. So I'm one of the few pastors in the state that sued the governor, and we won, and we reopened those churches. So we not only know how to win local races, county races, we know how to fight tyranny. And that's what we're seeing in 2024. This is going to be a crucial precipice year, and we have no idea what we're seeing. There are plenty of candidates in this race that I've known for years, many of them, but not a darn one of them have fought for anything, and that's what burns me up. And we're here to fight because our rights are at stake. Our country is at stake. And that's why I'm running for lieutenant governor.
You know, you are, pun intended, by the way, you're preaching to the choir here. So I was a gym owner in 2020 through the whole pandemic, and we got shut down. We ended up as a group suing Cooper, and eventually he caved because he knew he was going to lose. But it brings me to the point I want to ask you is, these are valid points, and I couldn't agree with you more on them, but what are you hearing on the campaign trail when you bring that up? My sense is that people have kind of almost forgotten what that was like. And I'm just curious if when you're talking about that, how are they responding? What's the response that you're getting?
Well, sadly, you're not wrong. They are or have forgotten a lot. I spoke in a rally last night in Cabarrus County, and I told this story. I tell this story everywhere I go because I've not forgotten it, nor will I ever forget what they have done. They being the left, they being the Democrats, they being complicit Republicans. I mean, this is not Republicans versus Democrats anymore. This is evil versus good. And here we are. So I remind them, never forget what they did, what they wanted to condition you to do. And we're even seeing the mask mandates come back in the Labor Department. I was in a meeting recently at the Labor Department that the Southern Poverty Law Group, who is completely leftist group, and they want to bring all of this back and make all employers force employees to wear a mask all the time, not if they're sick, all the stinking time. What happened to common sense? What happened to logic? So if we allow this to happen, if we do not stand up, if we do not stand our ground and maintain our constitutional rights, our country is gone. And what I find on the campaign trail, when I do remind people of what has happened to us in the past, they're like, oh, they're mad again. They're fine. They're finally getting it. They're finally being shaken. I think we have to have a lot of awakening on our side because people have forgotten, and the left is just glad to hear that. And I'm glad to hear your story as a gym owner because you were called and you were told that you were non-essential, and but everyone else, according to their leftist playbook, they were fine. We were not even permitted to have a funeral for my father, but yet George Floyd had 4 in this country, had one of those in North Carolina. So, yeah, I am a peed off American.
And I'm with you on that. I mean, I remember when Cooper did shut the gyms down, and shortly thereafter, all the protests started for George Floyd, and he's walking around in that protest, and we're reaching out to him going, how is it you can be in a protest with literally thousands of people, but my small gym is shut down? And in retrospect, I don't want to get too much into the weeds on the COVID side, but that was a mistake for everyone. I mean, we should be focusing on health, but it's interesting that you're bringing that up and the response that you're getting from people, because I agree with you. People have seemed to have forgotten about it. And I think the left is just waiting, right, so that they can re-implement it.
Absolutely. We've seen that over and over. We saw remnants of it back in the fall when germ season came around and cold weather started coming in and everybody started focusing on the flu. And one thing I would love to see eradicated from our television advertisement is everything about COVID flu, the COVID shots. I mean, let the doctors and the patients talk about that. Right now, it's just there's so much distrust out there that they're going to have to restore integrity before I believe anything they give me, even a glass of milk, because we've seen more people have adverse reactions. And I don't want to get in all the weeds either, but it's fact. It's reality. we've had so many people have adverse reactions from these things that pardon me if I have trust issues.
Yeah, and beyond that, you start talking about our number two here. I forget the woman's name who worked under the governor. She now took over the CDC, and nobody trusted her here.
We call her murdering Mandy Cohen.
There we go.
I am no fan of hers at all.
Yeah.
She does not foster any trust at all up at the national level.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everything that she did here, she's going to eventually do there. We're not done with this. It's coming back. It will not. We'll see it again because they got such a influx of cash in all of their programs that has broken our system down to what we have that we're seeing. They got everything they wanted in the name of public health. And if you didn't, you don't care about your neighbor. You don't love your neighbor, blah, blah, blah. And that was it was their way to bring in more control of their Marxist system.
Well, in that note, you're talking about the shots causing people significant health problems. I am one of those people. And now my medical advice is whatever you do, don't take a booster.
Mm-hmm. My doctor told me the same
Don't
thing.
ever take another shot, whatever you
And
do.
as has mine.
Okay. And the kids. I know a lot of young couples here in Brunswick County and in New Hanover County, their kids fell so far behind. And the education the so-called education they received was usually a deck of slides.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't want to make this about politics, but I mean, I can't separate the two. We're the only candidate that has called for the mRNA vaccines, the COVID vaccines, to come off the market. And I will lobby as president of the Senate to bring them off the market. We have to do it. And we have to reevaluate all the vaccines now. I saw a list the other day, and forgive me, I don't want to come across as misrepresentation of facts, but it was just an enormous amount of vaccines that a child was expected to take right now just to get into public education. That shouldn't be so. And it's not one size fits all. We're seeing adverse effects. And I'm not a doctor. And that's the first thing that the left says, well, you're not a doctor. Well, you aren't either. You're just most of you are just educated idiots. If you believe that a man can be pregnant, you got nothing for me.
But these are the same people that also think that the president's wife is a medical doctor. So put it with perspective.
Exactly. I mean, while we're being candid here, it's probably not a good idea to get me on a podcast after I just learned that our signage had been stolen from 11 counties. So
Really?
I've got a little bit of edge on me right now. Okay. I'm a little perturbed.
I bet you are, because it's happened here too, with one or two of our candidates in 2020.
Yes.
I want to say, and it was shocking. I mean, their signs were literally thrown in the ditch along Highway 17.
And actually, I have a picture this time with some of our candidates were put in this corner. They're just stacked up in the corner of a garbage area.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not the Democrats because it's only one candidate signs that's left in my race. And I'm not here to disparage a candidate, but it makes me, I'd love to shake.
November would be the Democrats, but right now it's not the Democrats.
It's not.
No, it's not the Democrats. And either I'm a threat or you've got a weak candidate or both.
Mm.
And I think
Could go both ways on that.
Yeah, that is your. Tell me, two scenarios. I'm going to give you the fact that you've won the race, you're the lieutenant governor. Scenario one is, how do you work with the new Republican governor? Scenario two is, how do you work with a Democratic governor?
Well, obviously, those are polar opposites. The governor would set the agenda. Obviously, he's the head of the executive branch. Both the candidates, Falwell and Robinson, I have a great relationship with. We're good friends. I could work with either one of them. They both know where I stand, and I would be more than happy to be assigned new tasks by them as the Constitution dictates can be given to the lieutenant governor. But I think we have to have a show of force. And what I mean by that is we've got to have a show of force of unity among the Republicans, given that we have a Republican governor, Republican lieutenant governor, and God help us, we need a Republican attorney general to defend our Constitution and our laws.
Maintain the General Assembly.
Yes. And so we would work very well together. I know I would not be the head tater. I wouldn't try to be the governor, and I have no ambitions for that. I just want to be effective, and I can be effective because we've learned how to lobby. I've been to the legislature some 12 or 13 times last year for bills that are important to us. I was there for the abortion bill. I was there for the sports in protecting women's sports. That's how Riley Gaines and I got to know each other, and Peyton McNabb, and they endorse us. I've been there for the gender mutilation bill. Every bill there. And in fact, I cannot verify this, but every time I was there, and others have told me, we've been the only candidate that was there. So we know how to lobby, and we know how to corner these representatives, and be respectful, but be firm. I'm not above the giving them the Johnson treatment and putting them in the corner and saying, hey, here's what we've got to do. I'm a big guy. I can do that.
Yeah, I understand the big guy operation really well. Got a question for you. You are definitely not the type to, as lieutenant governor, to walk in and say, how's the health of the governor, and go back to your office and take the day off. What areas would you like to get involved in if given the authority to do so?
Well, I've said it before. I've said it on a hot mic. We've got to look at revamping the State Board of Education. And had one of my opponents say, "You don't want to open that can of worms." Oh, heck yeah, I do, because those terms are 8 years long. It's the same term as a Supreme Court justice. They also overlap an incoming governor. So let's say we have a Republican governor. It may be the second term before they can even make an effective change on the state board. And that State Board of Education is vitally important, because that's where our entire garbage, I call it, the Marxism and the SEL and everything is being allowed to be in. And it is vitally important. I want to see, and I want to lobby the legislature to start an amendment, which will have to be eventually a constitutional amendment, because that's the only way we have to be able to change this. But I want to see those terms. In a perfect world, I want to see them every 2 years like the House and Senate, and I want to see them elected by we the people. And that way they are responsible to the voters. Right now, they're just responsible to a governor, and they really can't be fired. They're appointed, and they're on there for 8 years. So I want to be very involved in that. I want to be very involved in the state legislature as president of the Senate. I want to be very involved in the North Carolina Policy Council. What you see in your utility bills going up is actually the cause of that is bad policy passed by the past legislature. It was bipartisan. That's not going to be pleasant for some to hear, and I'm not going to get a lot of votes from certain people, but it's the truth. There was green policies passed and signed by the governor, and now you're paying the increase of it as a result. So it's buying into the green agenda. As chairman of the North Carolina Policy Council, and I've been endorsed by the Oil and Gas Workers of America, 47,000 strong, and they have looked at me and looked at my plan and said, hey, anything you need, we will be there. We need to make sure that we have a strong show of force in protecting our people, protecting our utilities, protecting our oil and gas, the green energy deal, the electric vehicles. If you want one, go buy one, but nobody should ever be required to do any of that. Because one thing, this is still America, and I'm an American citizen. I have free rights. I have the rights based upon the of the Constitution. And then secondly, it's a pipe dream. It is a pipe dream. I've been to Asheville, and I've seen the electric buses parked because in winter they don't work. It's a pipe dream. And so we need some common sense in the room. And those three areas particularly, and the fact that the lieutenant governor has the bully pulpit. We put out, we want to be the people's lobbyist. I've been to Raleigh. I think your shirt has a lobbyist in Raleigh, but nobody has we need a lobbyist in Raleigh. We
Right.
need somebody who'll come back to the people and say, hey, here's what's going on. We need to be involved.
Right. We're going to have to take a break now and pay a couple of bills, and we'll be back shortly with Allen Mashburn.
Yes. Welcome back. Sorry. Welcome back to Reclaiming America. We're very happy today. Our special guest is Mr. Allen Mashburn, and he is a candidate for Lieutenant Governor of the state of North Carolina. And we're about to continue a really interesting conversation with a really fired up candidate. So,
And just to remind everybody, he's on the Republican ballot, and you unaffiliated can ask for a Republican ballot and vote for the man.
bingo.
So we don't want to pass up that opportunity to help the man out
Nope.
here.
Yeah.
I got a question. So you've talked about a little bit about the COVID and the pandemic and a little bit about education. What other priorities do you see that you would like to address? Bill kind of touched on it before we went to break, but things that maybe we haven't talked about yet that you feel are priorities for the state and maybe even at the local levels within the state.
Well, I think we have to, number one, come to realize that that we're in spiritual battle and we're in a different state than we've ever been, good versus evil. What I mean by that, what we're seeing in California, what used to take 20 years to get here now takes 20 minutes. So we're going to see more and more things that we have to be proactive about because the leftist agenda does not die. They do not rest. They do not sleep. Having said that, we have to have some people in government to make sure on the state and local level specifically, to make sure that they are the first line of defense from a tyrannical government, because we've never been here before. It's not just about growing the economy. It's not about the 90s and the 80s talking points. It's not about that anymore. It's about taking a stand, protecting America. Having said that, it cannot consume us 100% because we have to continue to move forward by also defending our rights and fighting for our future. So my past, I was a welder. Trades are very important to me. And I want to see more entrepreneurial opportunities in communities. I want to see that more so. And we've addressed that pretty well in a lot of the community colleges. I've visited a lot of them. And they do quite well in the trades and adhering to the community. So I want to spend more time on that. And also, because the lieutenant governor sits on the North Carolina Community College system, but he's only one of 14. So there's my time and my influence there would be rather limited. But I have visited quite a few of the community colleges, and I love to work with them one-on-one. Also, I want to see, we've spent so many years making our high school students career ready, or excuse me, college ready. College isn't for everyone. Everybody on this podcast might have gone and had some college or had plenty of college or whatever. But it's not for everyone. So I want to see, when we were in high school, we built a house every year. We literally built a house. In fact, I drew the floor plan of the house when I was in school. And when I graduated and came back several years, we bought the house. That was our first house that we actually lived in. So we built a house. We would have shop. We would have auto mechanics and stuff. And all of these things we would actually be working on after school in the shop, fixing our cars, building whatever. And we knew what to do when we graduated. We knew we either were going to college or we were going to get a job. So we've got to change the way we think. And we have got to focus on getting the CRT and the SEL and all the Marxism out of our school. That's not going to be done lightly nor quickly. North Carolina is a battleship, so we've got to turn it, but it's going to take time to turn. But it's going to have to take intentional people, bold people, who will not listen or give to the left or comply, and to say, hey, we want to make America great again. We're going to have to go back and do what made America great to start with. And that's getting back to the basics and educating our children and doing everything possible to let our children know in an educational setting that America is exceptional and you can do great things and have great opportunities. So I want to be a cheerleader. I want to be a cheerleader for them. And I know it's hard to picture me being a cheerleader, but I want to be the people's lobbyist. That's what we say.
Go ahead, Bill.
I was just thinking about Alan and I being on a cheerleader lineup, and what that
I was deliberately not going to go there.
When I said that, I thought, that's an image I really didn't want to ring up.
You could probably
Dan
put me
has
on that
a
list.
wig that would work well.
Dan does have a wig.
He
that would
does
work
have a
well.
wig.
He does
that
have a
would
wig that would
work.
do well.
It's
with
very
Yep.
cheerleader. Yeah.
It's got the
Oh,
red
my.
flakes in it and all that stuff.
No, Greta has the direction we want to go next.
Okay, so yeah, yes, I'd heard about there were counties in North Carolina that were sanctuary counties.
Yes.
Okay, but I think what's got me stumped is that we're spending $1.5 billion of our education dollars, a whole lot of money on law enforcement and corrections, and doing healthcare and services and expenses. And the average cost to North Carolina is about $5,000 per illegal.
Mhm.
And as a household, that's almost $800. Now, we're down here in Brunswick County and
Southeastmost corner,
where people come to retire. And so I've already seen my husband and I've already seen our expenses climb for everything, right? And on top of that, another $800
Mm-hmm.
and over $3 billion bill to us so far. That's unconscionable.
So factor in your inflationary cost that's coming from the Biden administration and everything and their idiotic policies and their green energy deals and everything. Factor in all of that we have seen rise. So your cost of living, what used to be, I saw a statement one time that said from January to May, you work to pay your taxes. Well, basically now January to January, you're paying your taxes in some way, shape, or form, whether it be at the market, whether it be at the grocery store, whatever, and what you actually have to pay in. So you see where we're actually being bent into a compliance mannerism that is certainly not going to be comfortable. It's not comfortable now. I have a family of 6, and you with teenagers, they consume a massive amount of food. So yeah, I feel it quite often. But then you factor in what the illegals are costing us. Why in the world are the illegals are we paying for anything for them? When we have veterans waiting for care, when we have veterans sometimes, I mean, God forbid, they're living on the streets, when they deserve everything we could give them. And then, I mean, really and truly, if you want a good retirement plan, you need to fly down to Brazil and come in the southern border and claim asylum, and you'll get $4,000 a month or whatever.
Yeah, and you'll get, if you're in New York, you even get $1,000 rechargeable card a month to deal with your expenses, which is nice.
Yeah.
Now, following on that line, we've estimated there are just under 500,000 illegals in our state. How do we address that issue as far as ICE and whatever else and clearing up the issue?
Well, it's not only become a national issue, it's now a state issue because of Biden and his no leadership approach. Every state's a border state.
Now he's done that. Yes, every one of us are.
Yeah, every state's a border state. I was speaking at Trump National back in November with Tom Holman, who's the former ICE director with President Trump, and he has signed on to go back in the Trump administration. And he's told President Trump he would work for $1. Just let him work and get it done. And he agreed. I agreed. I was also on the program with General Flynn. I was on the program with Attorney General Paxton from Texas. And we all were talking. And Tom said, we have got to have a mass deportation effort if we're ever going to reclaim, going back to the name of your podcast, Reclaim America. And he's right. He's right. Now, as far as sheriffs in North Carolina, called cooperating with ICE, there's a law in the books. It's 287G. I mentioned it in our contract with North Carolina. And we want to make sure that every law enforcement agency in this state is signed on. It's a memorandum of agreement signed on with the federal government in ICE cooperating with them. What that does is they literally have an officer in that agency who is also a sworn officer of ICE. And so they're able to, doesn't solve all of our problems, but what that does is it enables them to detain them for 48 hours. And in that 48 hours, they can run their record. They can find out things that they normally couldn't do in a simple stop or check at a traffic stop or check or whatever. And they would actually have some time to do that. Now, we're going to have a massive effort. We're already seeing our children and our women and our young people die at the hands of illegals because they brought their criminal ways over here. So we're going to have to make sure that our children and our grandchildren and our loved ones they know how to use a firearm safely. They know how to protect themselves. We need to travel in groups. I hate to say this because this is America, but this is where we are. We do not know where these illegals have assimilated to. They're somewhere in our state. I've talked to about 40 sheriffs in this state, and I'm telling you, they are concerned because here's what I'm hearing. We do not have the manpower to address or respond should something happen here, what happened in Israel, where Hamas assimilated into the population, and then all of a sudden they decide we're going to have a revolt.
And when you talk about something like that, we're a prime state for something like that because we have so many military bases around here that are instant targets. And we know the Chinese have been buying land and sending people in, and they seem to buy a lot of property near a military base.
Yeah, and we need to stop that too. We need to stop any entity, foreign entity, from buying property in our state, specifically the Chinese. We use eminent domain laws to build highways. I want to use eminent domain laws to take our land back, and China can go back. They're the largest country in the world by population. They got plenty of land. They don't need any over here, and we certainly don't need their influence.
I would also agree that we need to, we're looking at the fact that they put 21,000 military-aged men across that southern border that we know of. Why? And what are they here for? And, are they in fact looking for a way to, should the balloon go up, sabotage?
Well,
and we're not dealing with it.
When I was with Tom Holman in November, he told me then that there were 109 nationalities represented of people coming in our southern border. And many of them were Chinese nationals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a scary thought to think about. If I can kind of shift things a little bit, I have a question that I've asked of many of the candidates we've had on, which is the economy in specific, but more precisely jobs. So there's a lot of layoffs that are starting to occur. The Bidenomics failure is, you reap what you sow. North Carolina is known as the #1 state for business. How do you foresee as Lieutenant Governor, continuing that and expanding on that?
Well, the Lieutenant Governor sits on the Economic Development Board. I want to take it, and I want to see small businesses flourish again. I've come from a small business background. I've said in a public setting, if you want me to go to California and recruit businesses to come over here, I'm probably not your guy, because I don't want to change the demographics of the state any more than we have to. And what we're seeing with the EV battery camp and everything coming over here from Toyota and whatever, We're seeing a shift in the demographic, and it's not going in the direction of the reds. It's going in a purple status and more of a blue. Now, I've had some Republicans laugh at that. I don't care. It's common sense. It's logic. Um, I want to see our young people engaged. I want to see them uh, go to work. I want to see them start their own businesses. I want to see entrepreneurial spirits thrive again, and I want to help that. And I think we can do that by encouraging it, by making it more uh, looking more attractive in the high school level, and then also in the training in the school in the community college levels, but then also in regulation. Any regulation that we see that's hindering a small business that we need to eradicate or scale back or probably eradicate, and because it's probably not needed. But I think issues such as that is one thing that we could definitely do. Many places in the eastern part. I mean, we've seen. I've been down to deep, and talked about deep water ports on the coast. There are things we can do and should have been done in the past, but it just hasn't been done. Nobody's had an appetite for it. I would love to expand that. I'd love to explore that more. I'm not an expert on it, but I would definitely be that person that would want to be that their lobbyist, if you will, the people's lobbyist in Raleigh for it. But I want to grow the state in more of a organic way by our own people, not ushering in big corporations specifically with tax breaks and tax advantages. And then when those tax breaks run out, they relocate to another state that gives them a tax break. That's what we've seen. That money is not the government's money to give away. It's the people's purse. And if people want to relocate their business here, we want to accommodate them in making sure that we have the best locations, the best environment for it, the best people, the best workers. But I am not for bribing any corporations to come here. And I'm not going to do that.
Good for you. Are you done, sir, with your question?
Yes, go ahead, Bill.
Okay. As we move forward into the next 10 years or so, what do you see the needs of North Carolina to be?
Well, I think the needs in North Carolina are going to be ever developing, obviously, because our population is growing. What I really am concerned about is our infrastructure. We have an electrical grid that just last year, Moore County, my home county, was put in the dark. 40,000 residents. One person died as a result of it because of a domestic terrorist attack, what I call it. And I was able to go down there and visit it and see a behind the views tour. And we need to protect our electrical grid. We need to protect, I think government needs to shift from being the cure-all for people. People look at the government and say, well, we've got a housing problem. What you going to do about it? Unleash the private market, unleash the private sector. The government doesn't solve our problems. They continually make problems to continually make themselves relevant. And so I think we have to make sure that government is restrained in the next 10 years, because what we have seen is nothing more than the government grow. The government is not your savior, and it should be restrained as such. The people need to rule. The people need to have the liberty to live and to start their business and to grow their family without heavy taxation and to be represented on every level of government. So that might not be the politically correct answer of what we need to see, but it is the logical answer, because it is the answer with people involved, not the government.
I'm going to double back to education for a minute, because I'm a retired high school principal in North Carolina and New York, so it sticks in my mind a lot. I don't know if you know John Droz, D-R-O-Z.
I don't think so.
Okay, John is an engineer out of New Bern in the area. He has done a lot of work in the last couple of years with school boards, because he found out by accident about 3 years ago that the schools in North Carolina, along with 48 other districts, 48 other states, did away with the scientific method, stopped teaching it. So he was able to get it back in place this year because he fought with the DPI to get it in place. His new project, and again, I might shock you with this, and I may not. He's one of the few people that have read from cover to cover every one of the DPI's rules and regs and what they want curriculum and taught. And he found out that they did away with critical thinking.
Yeah.
We are, in fact, not teaching our kids how to analyze anything. And that's why we're making them into robots. And John is fighting long and hard. And I think listening to you, you might be someone you want to follow up with, because he wants to bring critical thinking back. And that would solve some of our issues by getting people to stop taking the, we used to call it the Kool-Aid,
Yeah, drinking
and
the
start
Kool-Aid.
finding out what really exists for them. So anyway, I'll let you comment on that.
No, I totally agree. I mean, we have too many screens in front of our children, and what parents do and allow their children to do in the homes, that's their business. But we have too many screens in the public school system, and we need to bring those books back and have them to write. We need to bring back cursive writing. We need to bring back critical thinking skills, critical writing. I mean, those are the things that I loved. And I write for 3 national publications right now. And that's where I learned my love of writing and research. And without it, you can't write an article because you don't know how to research. Well, it's on the internet. It must be true. That's farthest from the truth.
Fortunately, they
So-
believe that.
Yeah, they do.
And I enjoyed science as well, and we love the scientific method, and so all of that needs to be brought back. Have you noticed that when we discontinued all the things that we've just talked about, we started having our problems? We started having students that were poor and less than proficient in reading, less than proficient in math, and we're just pushing them along. And we're going to have a terrible economy if we do not fix our educational system, because sooner or later you're going to need a mechanic, you're going to need a doctor, you're going to need a lawyer, and you're not even going to have someone who can read the Constitution because it's in cursive writing.
There's an old line about that. If you wanted to punish some of the young kids today, put everything in cursive writing, give them a dial phone, and give them a shift car. They'll go nowhere. It's over.
Yeah, they wouldn't know how to drive a stick.
They don't have nothing to do with thing. I agree.
Give them a rotary phone,
Yep.
and that's it.
Shift car. Give them their orders in cursive writing.
Yeah.
They will sit there going, oh, blah, 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 blah. It's over.
Yeah.
It's a little
I
like
mean-
Dan in the morning, but
Probably have an app for that now, Bill, cursive too, I can understand it.
probably you're right. I
Yeah.
hadn't thought about
Yeah, you
that.
probably have an app.
Maybe an
It's
AI.
sad.
Google.
It's sad that we categorize that as basic survival skills now.
Yep.
Yes.
And they don't have them.
No.
All right, we have about a minute left before we have to go to break.
I
So
think that we should let that minute, Alan, give you your last pitch to the people and let them hear why they should make you lieutenant governor.
All right, folks, listen to me. Go over the list of everybody. And as I've said in the beginning of this podcast, we have won races. I believe we're running with the right reasons, for the right reasons. We just want to make a change. We want to make an effective change in our land. We want to be bold in our stance. We have people that want to be in these offices just to put another rung in the ladder of their career. We're not all about that. We want to save our country, and we want to stand strong. And so I would be more than ecstatic and humbled if you would go visit our website at Allen for NC, ELLEN, Allen for the number 4 for NC.com. Read over our contract for North Carolina. We are the only candidate that has formulated a plan, a 23-page document, and you're more than welcome to read it. We have people commenting and sending us emails all the time, giving questions, and we love to write them back. Had a question last night. Did you write that or a speechwriter write that? No, I wrote that because I researched the job and I figured that we needed to have somebody running that had a plan. And I asked for your vote. I asked for your prayers. And please vote on March 5th. And please pray for our country.
For those who don't know, again, this is Allen Mashburn. He's lieutenant governor candidate in the Republican primary. And if you like what you hear, get out there and vote. Thank you for being with us, Alan. It's been a great hour. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on that note, we're going to throw it for a quick break, and then we're going to come back, and myself, Bill, and Greta will be talking about something I don't know what yet. So stay tuned on Reclaiming America.
You know what we're talking about. We agree. Welcome back, everybody, to Reclaiming America. We've had a great show so far with candidate for the Republican Party, Allen Mashburn, with us, and said a lot of great things. I think you should pay attention to what he has to say, and if you like what he has to say, go vote for him. But right now, we're going to talk about some of the things going on in the world. I think the first thing we could look at is a contrast in styles and in functioning. Let's talk about two different trips to the border on the same day. You had former President Trump go down to the middle of the Texas area, the Eagle, whatever it was.
Eagle Pass.
Eagle Pass down there, and where they were literally the Texans have set up their own Alamo, if you will. They're going to stop everybody coming across. And he's there where you had 20, 30,000 people a day coming in on a regular basis. Meanwhile, there's, I can't find the border, President Biden, who went down to Brownsville in Louisiana, and they had a record of 46 people crossing the border. And that's like 4-6. I mean, that's not even a good hour over there in Eagle Pass. But he went down there because he was going to do the investigation. And shock, he came back saying, well, after talking to everybody, they need more resources. They need more money. Trouble is, his plan, and that he's pushing, Trump should come on board and support the plan that the Republicans are, quote, not supporting in the House. What he's not telling you is all that money is not going to get more people. They're there to process more illegals.
That's right.
Give them more benefits, take care of the sanctuary cities. It's not stopping the flow. It's not putting up a wall.
But if Trump wants to, he can come on board and help Joe Biden.
Oh, sure, you could.
That's what he said.
That's what, yes, he would be glad to have him on with it.
Oh, by all means, let's do it together.
Oh, that's right.
Oh my God. Okay.
So, I, as we talked about off air, I have not followed the news in the last couple of days. I've been a little otherwise preoccupied. What was Trump's solution at this point? I mean, what did he say anything? Is he going to go back to what he was doing? What was he specifically saying? I guess
close the border, deportation.
Deportations, close the borders, make the South American countries take their people back. You know, and you start out with the fact, you know, for example, Venezuela has already said we will not take any of them back.
Oh, they're
Now, if that's Trump sitting there, he'll go, well, that's fine. You will not see a dime coming from the North any way, shape, time, or soon.
nope.
And I will embargo you till you take him back.
Yeah. Easy.
If that's Biden, he'll say, how much would it cost me to take them? Now, what's also interesting, Mexico has committed to cut back on the flow coming across the border, not because they want to cut the flow. They're afraid that Trump might win.
Yeah.
So if they cut it back, it looks like Biden's doing something.
Yeah.
And it might help him pull out the election.
Yeah, I've always said Mexico is fully culpable in this. Last I checked, they had a border to their south that they could shut that off, and it solves the problem on the northern part of their border also.
Look, if you look at the people crossing the border, they didn't walk those hundreds of miles through.
Many of them didn't.
No.
Now, if they're wearing those outfits and they walk those hundreds of miles, you're talking about Superman, Supergirl, Batman, and the rest of them, because they're absolutely spotless coming
That's some
across.
nice clothes.
Yeah, and good clothes. It doesn't look worn and whatever else.
It didn't dirty or anything.
No, they were doing great.
I think what Joe Biden is doing, though, to me at least, it feels like the horse has already bolted. Okay, it's a little late to be closing the door of the barn when people are getting killed and getting brutalized and robbed and business, everything. I don't know. I just think it's too late.
You know, I'm going to give a hint to all you Republicans in the House of Representatives. You want to score a lot of points and maybe even do something good? Why don't you introduce a bill which basically says if any foreign country refuses to take back their illegal aliens, all aid of any shape or form stops.
Yep.
I'd argue they need to do that whether they take them back or not, because the amount of money we're shipping overseas right now, when, as we just recently talked about right on this very fine podcast, the amount of money or the lack of services that are available to veterans, the homeless, and all that. I mean, they're looking at sending another package of 100 billion between the various countries over to Israel, to Ukraine, to wherever. And you look at these home problems that aren't even talked about at this point, let alone addressed or funded in any way. You're talking about the House. I'm worried the Republicans are going to lose the House at the way they're going. They need to take a stand, and I think you make a good point, Bill. That would be a great stand to take. The budget's out there. Again, I've kind of been off the grid a little bit, but the last I knew, they had come to a compromise agreement to short-term fund.
Yeah, they're going to pass 6 of them by next Friday, and the other 6 are going to be passed 2 weeks later, I believe, 22nd or something like that.
But are these continuing resolutions to keep it where it was, or is this the new budget deal?
Well, this is the 12 elements of a budget.
Yeah.
So this will become the new budget.
Correct.
Yeah.
If it passes.
If it passes. And then, of course, the Senate's got to sign off on it on their end, but what little bit. It just, again, it speaks to, are they listening to the people? We kind of talked about with Mr. Mashburn, the amount of cost that the average family is trying to absorb right now. It's funny, just this morning I was doing my grocery order, and I noticed eggs were up over $1 in a week. Half and half. The staples, half and half was up 70 cents, same store. And it's not that they were on sale last week. Those are legitimate price increases. 70 cents.
Daily.
Our fuel went up like 10 cents in one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you're looking at that stuff, and wages haven't gone up. My amount of money coming in hasn't changed, but yet I'm looking at 15, 20% higher food costs. And then you're looking at my electric bill has gone up, my water bill's gone up, all of them. They've got to do something. We're at the point now where we can't wait any longer. Are they going to step up, though?
Well, if they don't, they're going to become everything that we already despise, allegedly, as a party, is you don't have to worry about anything. We give you everything. And then over time, we take all your rights away. And what does that
And
remind
you're
you?
happy about.
Yeah, you're happy, right? I'm just saying, that's what they're going to become, and it's almost too late.
Unfortunately, Gen X is kind of lining up and saying, please, I don't want to be responsible for anything.
No,
Just
they
tell me
don't.
what to do, think, and
Yes.
make sure I get my food and a place to live, and I'm good.
Yeah, today.
I think you meant Gen Z, not X. The younger
Oh,
ones? Gen
I'm
Z,
sorry.
yeah. So, all right, we got about a minute left.
Why I said Z.
I get them all confused, too. All I know is personally, I don't like the millennials. The rest of them are okay by me, but I raised 6 of them. I give myself permission to say that. So now we'll get a bunch of threats against us and all that from them. A little less than a minute left. Any final thoughts?
I think we've had a good run today. I think
Yeah.
we had a good conversation. Though I will say, I know that Dan is upset because Senator McConnell has announced he's going to step down in November.
Oh, I know. That must have felt like a
I have not. Wait. I did not hear this. Oh, we're
Oh,
close.
yes, he did.
Oh.
He's stepping down in leadership as of November.
Oh, I thought you meant he was
Finishing
stepping
off.
down completely from the Senate.
No, he's finishing. his
Oh,
term.
you crushed me, Bill.
Got a couple years in
You
this one.
raised my hopes and then you crushed them because the turtles
Sounds like
got to
he's
go.
hating him, too. But no, McConnell has said that he will step down in November. I think that's because he knows that Trump will bury him.
Well, I was going to say he wouldn't be staying there anyway, most likely.
And but he was going to finish his term, which I believe runs out in 27.
And he's what, 9,000 years old already?
82. He had his birthday just this week.
On that note, it's time to wrap things up. So, Bill or Greta or somebody other than me, tell people where they can find us.
Oh my God, it's my turn. Okay, so we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on
Okay.
Twitter,
TikTok.
TikTok, And are we on Apple Music yet?
We are on Apple, yes. But just a quick side note, I did want to add to that. And Greta, thank you for testing earlier this week. We are on Apple, but they're not pushing us out. So we are on the shadow ban list and have been for a while. So if you are watching us on Apple or you are listening elsewhere and have Apple, do us a favor and go on over and follow us on Apple and make sure you subscribe on Apple and all that stuff, because it's available, but they ain't showing it to anybody. So, all right. It's time to wrap things up, kids.
See you guys in a week on Reclaiming America.
There we go. Say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.
Gracie.
There you go.